Hey guys, this is Thetos, and I'm currently going to be making my first Dark Souls, or I guess, yeah, really my first Souls review. So, with that being said, this time I'm just going to be covering Dark Souls 3, my opinions, then I'm going to grade it from a 1 to 10 average at the end. So I'm going to be covering my thoughts on the online play, my thoughts on basically everything over the course of the next 15 minutes. So please enjoy. To start things off, I'd like to say that the mechanics of the game are pretty good, and mostly pretty flawless as far as most things go, honestly. If this game has any mistakes, any problems with it that I could see, it would be the input delay that this has. And what I mean is I'll swing once and then if I mash the roll button, then I could be stuck. But sometimes you can roll, when you try to mash the roll button and roll once, you might accidentally roll twice. Stuff like that. It doesn't happen too often. I don't really have much good footage of it happening right of this moment. So, Dark Souls is a very good game, though, and it's a very in-depth game. The game pours atmosphere. Like, this area is called the Undead Settlement, and immediately you get a sense of dread, an ominous feeling. I mean, there's crows that are going to be eating dead things. There's, or crows, whatever. And then there's just bodies that are hung and stuck through the ground. It's crazy. This place looks horrifying. That was a premium example, by the way, of what I meant a second ago of what happens if you have input delay. Because I switched to my regular Estus and I used a second Ashen Estus when I shouldn't have. But, well, with a perfect example like that, what more can you ask for? But this game pours atmosphere, and it has a very interesting, intricate way that the game is put together. It doesn't necessarily have, some base points that you're going to be going to, like, you go here and the world is completely interconnected, because, well, the world is interconnected, but there is a main hub in the game, and that is Firelink Shrine in this. In Dark Souls 1, you had Firelink Shrine, but it was like the central hub, kind of, but it was connected to every point in the game, and everything started there, so you knew it was important. But in this game, I mean, you have how the mechanics work is you have to warp to and from Firelink Shrine to where you're going, but each area is connected to every other area. Well, in a sense, it's a little bit more linear than Dark Souls 1, in my opinion, and I feel the how linear the game is changes after you kill the first Lord of Cinder in this. But in opposed to Dark Souls 1, and even opposed to Dark Souls 2, who also did something similar, the game in Dark Souls 1, you had just a spread out, like, you could fight any boss at any point in time the entire first half of the game. And the game got a little bit linear later, but not too much. You could basically still do anything you wanted. The game was just not linear at all for the most part. Dark Souls 2, you could go anywhere you wanted, but then you had to go to one point, so it got linear later, but it started off unlinear. This game, it's kind of, you only have one direction, but you have the freedom to explore every area without having to have your hand held, and you can go and do quests as you see fit. So the areas themselves are slightly linear, whilst the game design itself gets less linear about, I'd say, 10 to 12 hours in somebody's first playthrough. And I'm not saying the game is long, because I could clear this game in 6 hours without picking up any items, but when you put in dying, when you put in load times, screenplays that you're going to be watching, openings, endings, boss fights, multiple tries on areas. You know, you have to put all that in, and it can take people a long time. I mean, my first playthrough of this Souls game was, I don't know, I'd like to clock it in at about 35 hours, and that was me exploring everywhere. It was pretty fun. But since I've got a prime example here, I will show you guys some PvP and what it can be like. This guy is, well, this is kind of what PvP is in a sense. It's very fun, in my opinion. At least that's the word that I would use to, you know, explain it. A little bit early. But PvP is very much the is very much just a medium for players to just find a point where they will enjoy themselves and have a lot of fun with other people, as PvP should be. But PvP in this is more of a, you know, you can be invaded while you're fighting off all these enemies, while you're going through this scary looking place that's full of dread and death and panic. But PvE, on the other hand, whilst the main game is full of all these things, PvE is more of a, well, there are all these bad things, but kind of situation. Like, you have all of these bad things that happen, but you get really good loot from killing things, but you learn how to play the game better, but you learn how the game really stands. So, at a standpoint of that, PvE is very good because every moment, every enemy that you fight, every design of a section in the game, it all teaches you very well where you stand and where the enemies stand and how this world, how you are intertwined with this world. Now, with that being said, the game still is very much of the, you know, you gotta learn quickly because we're not going to tell you, and it gives you messages in the very first starting area. You know, this button does this button does that, or you can just skip the messages like most people do and learn through, you know, just touching or just by like trying the game out and playing. But the game does give you an ample tutorial, as well as a challenging tutorial boss, which is actually interesting because Dark Souls 2 didn't even have a tutorial boss, and Dark Souls 1 had the Asylum Demon, which was a which at first glance would appear to be a very difficult tutorial boss, but it teaches you that there's more to a situation than your first glance leads. While this game, you realize that you're in this dark, dreary place, you come out of the ground, you think, oh, well, you know, this looks bad, and then you appear to just decide that, you know, you gotta press on. And as your character presses on, you learn more things. But then when you come across the first boss after the first bonfire, you've seemed to, you know, you've run into your first challenging enemy, and you've run into, you know, some generic enemies, and you kind of understand how the game's going to function. That's when you get your first semblance of how this game runs. But it also works in other terms, as the game won't always teach you, you know, how the like what to do with the game, you know, in a sense, and this is gonna sound kind of like an excuse, but in the best way I've heard it put was by another game reviewer named Yahtzee from Escapist, and he said it best. Your Dark Souls isn't here to appease you, you're here to appease Dark Souls. So you're not here, you know, to like Dark Souls isn't here to impress you. Dark Souls is here to show you that games aren't gonna just hold your hand senselessly. Wow. This is awkward. But with the fact of the matter that games aren't going to just be holding your hands like this game displays, I mean, it's a game in itself that, you know, in a medium and in a time where, or in a media and a time where games are just like, you know, Call of Duty, Battlefield, and those are the big AAA titles nowadays. Dark Souls is more of a, you know, you gotta learn, you have to be able to fight by yourself, you have to know how to fight, you have to be able to pick things up quickly because this game is not going to wait for you. Every boss is different, every boss is unique, every boss has some element about them, some attack pattern that's different from other bosses, and if you don't learn that attack pattern, then you're better off just, you know, you're better off trying and getting better at a different point in the game and just practicing and realizing how to learn some mechanics that would help you. Because, well, quite honestly, there are plenty of mechanics in this game that are implemented very well, just that you have to learn them by yourself. You have to learn them on your own so that you can feel better and you can get better. And right now I'm going to try to attempt to show you that there is more than just PvP in this game. As you see these yellow and white soapstones, there is cooperative play. There is also PvP. They don't have an arena in this, but I'm hoping that when and if the DLC pops, there will be an arena, because Dark Souls 1 had a similar situation where PvP became so big, but there was no arena. And I'm thinking that the arena might have just been a time constraint in this, because this game would be perfect to have arena play. Wow, you look very much like a new player. And we're also about to be assassinated. What are you doing? Fight him. Come on, bruh. I'm willing to let these guys duke it out, but this is what cooperative play amounts to. It's nothing special, really. It's more or less... Wow. To think I gave that guy crap. Wow. Good on you, Sunbro. I think I gave you crap. But this game is here to appease you. You're not here to appease it. So this game is more or less a game just on its own of you have to learn and get better at it yourself so that you can do better, you know, in different departments of the game. And as you can see, I mean, the game is challenging. They give you NPC invaders. These enemies are all hulking messes. And this game even has a nice mechanic of having new game cycles and having challenging trophies and achievements to get. It's full of a lot of positive things to it. The fighting mechanics are something that I'm going to get into in my personal thoughts video, because, well, I don't feel that it is correct to just amount to give it's a small section. I think that the combat in this game deserves its own entire section on the matter, because the combat in this game is a cut above the rest, very much in a literal term and in a figurative term, because this is some of the best, you know, game mechanics I've seen in years, and I feel that it should be treated with, you know, such like a positive outlook that, you know, it deserves. So with that being said, with everything tallied up and everything thought out, I would like to give this game a 9.5 that it definitely deserves. It has a few small things with as far as like game mechanics go, balancing and weapons, stuff like that goes, and online play, which really brings it down by 0.5 points. But other than that, the game is fantastic. It's an amazing work of art. And I personally fell in love with this series in Demon's Souls, but this is a game that I have always loved to play. Now, I'd love to thank you guys for coming out. I'm going to have my personal thoughts video out either within the next day or two. So I'm glad you guys came out, and thank you for, you know, watching my first Souls review. I'll have more out, I promise, guys. Bye.